Epstein was not some sort of whiz-kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well.
What if the last message you ever sent wasn't a goodbye, but a warning? What if the final text between a political powerhouse and his wife didn't say, "I love you," but instead hinted that something inside his own world wasn't right? That's the question ripping through certain corners of the internet right now as online speculation swirls around Charlie Kirk, his inner circle, and the sudden narrative shift that followed a wave of internal controversy. Whose social media threads are dissecting alleged last texts, analysing wording, tone, punctuation, even handwriting samples from posted notes. People are replaying interviews frame by frame. They're asking why staffing changes happened so quickly, why long-time employees vanished, why certain phrases sounded off. And then, like it always does in the digital age, one name started appearing in the speculation cycle: Jeffrey Epstein. Not because of verified documents, not because of confirmed ties, but because Epstein's name has become a symbol, a shortcut to suggest hidden power networks, secrecy, and elite manipulation. Suddenly, online communities weren't just talking about internal disputes. They were asking whether something deeper was uncovered, whether a private message hinted at distrust, whether a leader had begun questioning people closest to him, and whether that tension explains the chain of events that followed. None of these claims are verified, but the intensity of the speculation tells us something powerful about how modern narratives form, and how quickly a single alleged text can turn into a full-blown digital firestorm. It started with a screenshot, or rather, the claim of one. In certain online spaces, users began referencing what they described as Charlie Kirk's final text to his wife before internal tensions escalated inside his organization. No verified copy, no confirmed metadata, just descriptions. Allegedly, or the tone was different. Allegedly, it hinted at frustration. Allegedly, it suggested he had questions about money, about loyalty, about internal influence. And that's where speculation took off. Because once you introduce the idea that a powerful political figure may have been onto something, the internet does what it always does. It builds a storyline around that possibility. Suddenly, our routine staffing changes became purges. Leadership reshuffles became silencing. Financial audits, even the mention of them, became evidence of discovery. And from there, narrative escalation was inevitable. The more the phrase "last text" circulated, the more weight it carried, even without proof, even without publication, even without confirmation from primary sources. It became symbolic, a digital relic, a supposed clue. But here's the critical distinction. A rumored message is not a documented one. No verified outlet has published such a text. No authenticated record has confirmed its contents. What we are watching isn't an exposed secret. It's a theory gaining momentum. And in the modern attention economy, momentum often matters more than documentation. The story didn't spread because it was proven. It spread because it felt cinematic. A final warning. A private doubt. A leader questioning his own circle. In that narrative structure is powerful, especially when public distrust is already high. Once the last text theory gained traction, the next phase was predictable. Ordinary internal disputes were reframed as something far darker. Reports of long-time staff members leaving or being let go from Turning Point USA were no longer seen as management decisions. They were interpreted as fallout. Online commentators began asking, were these people pushed out because they knew something? Was there an internal audit that uncovered irregularities? Did tensions inside the organization escalate before leadership shifts occurred? In reality, political nonprofits frequently experience turnover, strategy changes, budget realignments, personality clashes. None of those are rare. But when you insert a dramatic narrative, a final text, a sudden shift, a sense of betrayal, normal organizational turbulence starts looking like a cover story. And this is where things intensify. Because once internal restructuring is framed as suppression, every administrative move becomes suspect. If 30 employees leave, it's a purge. If leadership consolidates power, it's a takeover. If messaging changes, it's damage control. The pattern builds itself. And then comes the most volatile step: attaching a symbolic villain. In this case, online speculation began invoking the name Jeffrey Epstein, not because of confirmed documentation, but because Epstein's name now functions as shorthand for hidden networks and elite compromise. It's important to stress there is no verified evidence connecting these staffing changes to Epstein or any intelligence operation. But in digital culture, once symbolism attaches, it spreads faster than fact checks can keep up. What started as an alleged text turned into a broader narrative about infiltration, hidden influence, and internal betrayal, all without primary source confirmation. Here's where the temperature really rises. The moment online speculations surrounding Charlie Kirk started mixing with internal audit rumors and staffing shakeups, one name began surfacing repeatedly in comment sections and livestream breakdowns: Jeffrey Epstein. Not because of a filed lawsuit, not because of a leaked document, but because Epstein's case left a permanent scar on public trust. His real-life network involved powerful people. His death sparked unresolved questions. His associations created a template in the public imagination, a template that now gets projected onto unrelated controversies. This is what media analysts call symbolic transference, when an event becomes so culturally charged that it turns into a narrative shortcut. Mention Epstein, and audiences immediately think blackmail, intelligence ties, elite compromise. And so, when an online theory suggests a political leader was digging into something or about to expose something, attaching Epstein's name amplifies emotional gravity instantly. But amplification is not authentication. No verified reporting has tied Turning Point USA, its leadership, or its staff to Epstein in any documented way. What's happening instead is associative storytelling. The brain prefers a connected villain. It feels more satisfying than bureaucratic explanations like mismanagement or political infighting. Once Epstein's name enters a rumor cycle, the stakes feel cinematic, and cinema spreads faster than paperwork. That's why it's crucial to distinguish between emotional resonance and documented linkage. One fuels clicks, the other requires proof. Once the Epstein symbolism attached itself to the speculation cycle, the next escalation was almost automatic: infiltration. The online threads began suggesting that internal shifts inside Turning Point USA weren't just political or managerial. They were strategic. Words like compromised, foreign influence, and intelligence assets started appearing. Some posts referenced Mossad. Others mentioned vague deep state actors. The logic wasn't built on released documents or investigative findings. It was built on pattern stitching. If someone knew someone in 2016, and that person later gained influence, and then internal staff were removed, the story writes itself. But storytelling and substantiation are not the same thing. Intelligence agency accusations spread easily because they are hard to disprove. Real intelligence work is classified, which makes the accusation unfalsifiable. If someone says, "There's infiltration," and you ask for proof, the response can always be, "Of course there's no proof. It's covert." That structure makes the theory self-sealing. And once a theory becomes self-sealing, denial becomes confirmation. It's important to be clear. There is no verified evidence that Mossad, the CIA, or any intelligence service infiltrated Turning Point USA. The infiltration narrative thrives because it satisfies suspicion. It transforms routine internal politics into espionage drama. And in a polarized environment where trust is already fractured, Espionage feels more believable than incompetence or ordinary disagreement. But the jump from internal conflict to foreign compromise isn't built on paperwork. It's built on emotion, and emotion travels fast. After infiltration theories gained traction, the speculation machine shifted into forensic mode. Suddenly, people weren't just discussing leadership changes, they were analyzing visuals. A posted handwritten note was compared to older samples. Commenters zoomed in on pen pressure, spacing, and slant. Some claimed the handwriting didn't match. Others insisted it looked authentic. No certified document examiner weighed in. No verified forensic analysis was released. But in online culture, side-by-side screenshots can feel like expert review. Then came the missing photo discourse. Observers pointed out that a wedding picture visible in earlier office footage appeared absent in later clips. That absence was framed by some as symbolic. Why was it gone? Who removed it? When? In reality, our offices get rearranged, items get moved, backgrounds change, but when suspicion is already active, neutral details become evidence. This is confirmation bias in action. Once someone believes something larger is happening, every small inconsistency becomes reinforcement. A phrasing slip in a speech? Intentional. An emotional pause in an interview? Telling. A staffing shift? Coordinated. The human brain is exceptional at detecting patterns, even when those patterns aren't causally connected. None of these visual observations constitute verified proof of wrongdoing. They are interpretations layered onto ordinary moments. But because they are tangible, a note, a shelf, a clip, they feel concrete. And concrete feels convincing even when context is missing. At this stage, something subtle but powerful happens. The conversation stops being about whether the alleged last text is real. It stops being about whether staffing changes were routine, where it stops being about whether a missing photo was accidental. Instead, the narrative becomes about belief. Online communities begin to split into two camps: those who think something deeper is happening and those who think the speculation is unfounded. And once that division forms, the issue is no longer just informational. It becomes identity-based. If you question the narrative, you're seen as naive. If you doubt the speculation, you're labeled complicit. If you ask for documentation, you're accused of defending power. This is how self-sealing frameworks solidify. Because now the belief isn't just about facts, it's about belonging. People bond over shared suspicion. They build threads, live streams, reaction videos. Repetition creates perceived consensus. And perceived consensus feels like validation. But consensus is not evidence. A theory doesn't become true because thousands of people discuss it. It becomes true when verified, documented, independently corroborated information supports it. In this case, no confirmed investigative reporting has validated the existence of a bombshell final text exposing criminal infiltration. No public filings confirm intelligence ties. What exists instead is a rapidly expanding digital narrative. And digital narratives can grow faster than documentation can catch up, or refute them. That's the environment we're watching unfold. So here's where we land. Not in accusation, not in dismissal, but in responsibility. Because when a story like this starts circulating, an alleged final text, internal shake-ups, whispers of hidden influence, it's easy to get pulled into the cinematic version. It feels dramatic. It feels layered. It feels like a puzzle waiting to be solved. And in an era shaped by the fallout of real scandals involving figures like Jeffrey Epstein, public distrust is already primed. That makes every unexplained detail feel heavier, every pause feel intentional, every shift feel strategic. But here's the question that matters most. What is documented? And what is narrative? If a claim is serious, espionage, criminal networks, staged events, it should come with serious evidence. Court filings, financial records, verified investigative reporting, independent confirmation, not screenshots without origin, not handwriting comparisons on social media, not insider whispers without names. Repetition is not proof. Virality is not validation. That doesn't mean you stop asking questions. It means you ask better ones. If you care about accountability, demand transparency from all sides. If you care about truth, separate emotion from documentation. If you care about discourse, resist the urge to treat speculation as certainty. Because once reputations are reshaped by rumor, the correction rarely travels as far as the accusation. So before you repost, react, or double down, pause. Ask yourself, is this verified? Or does it just feel powerful? If you value critical thinking over clickbait, hit subscribe. If you want more breakdowns that separate narrative from proof, drop a comment. And if you believe truth deserves standards, share this with someone who needs to hear it. The digital age moves fast, but facts still matter.